That's the U.S. Supreme Court. We are tracking some potential major news out of the Supreme Court. They may have a decision on President Donald Trump's tariffs. They also may not. We've seen this happen over the last couple of times that they've been in session. The early indications are that they do have a decision when it comes to President Donald Trump's tariffs. So we're going to be watching what's going on with that. A major decision. Justices could rule as soon as today on whether former President Trump had the authority to impose sweeping tariffs using emergency powers. At the heart of the case, how far a president can go in reshaping global trade without Congress. So that decision looks like it did happen today, and we're tracking some of the blogs that's going on. Robert, you're watching this. Okay, so Robert, you were going to come in. We were going to talk about former Prince Andrew, but you're looking at some stuff here. What's going on out of the U.S. Supreme Court? What do you see?
So the court just ruled that the president cannot impose tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the IEEPA. I don't know what the vote count is, but apparently the ruling was written by Chief Justice John Roberts,
okay,
who has been kind of a swing vote, but this is momentous news. The court holding that the president does not have the power to impose tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is a federal law from 1977, and it was the rationale that the president used to impose these tariffs. Now, this doesn't automatically mean that the tariffs go away automatically.
Right.
What could happen is that he could just change his rationale for imposing them. Right. In theory. I'm speculating a little bit here. I don't know do we know the vote count?
Don't know the vote count yet. I mean, we probably are going to get a little bit more of that. I'm just sort of keeping my eye on Wall Street as well to see how the markets are reacting. So far, it looks like things are relatively stable. So what we have up here is pretty reliable, sort of one of those blogs. So, yeah, okay. So it looks like Wall Street, I mean, we haven't seen the Dow plunge or anything like that based on this early decision, but this news just coming in just a second ago. So if you're just tuning in, major decision from the U.S. Supreme Court, justices ruling today on President Donald Trump's tariffs, and they have appeared to rule that the court holds that the president does not have the authority to impose those particular tariffs. So, I mean, as you remember, when President Trump came into office, he was using those tariffs, A, as a negotiating tool, and B, as a way, in a sense, to raise revenue, to sort of do some of the different things that he wanted to do. And it was a major focal point of what would happen with the U.S. economy. A lot of people were saying that the tariffs would cripple the U.S. economy, that the tariffs would sort of have this ripple down effect that would be a negative. So far, you haven't really seen that sort of play out the way a lot of the critics had expected. But this decision here potentially does change some of the elements. So
it's a massive decision. It appears to be the only decision today. It's a 6-3 decision. Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh, the dissenters. Thomas, Alito, Kavanaugh, dissenters. But it's interesting because the Chief Justice, John Roberts, is in the majority. He wrote the majority opinion, right, holding that the president cannot impose the tariffs under the IEEPA.
Yeah, and the IEEPA stands for International Emergency Economic Powers Act, traditionally used for national security threats to justify some of those broad tariffs. Critics had argued that tariffs were used for economic leverage, not true emergencies. But supporters of the White House and the president had said they were necessary to protect U.S. jobs, counter unfair trade practices, sort of balance things out. He said, oh, look, they're hitting us with this amount. We've got to do the same thing at the same time.
And for businesses, especially small businesses, tariffs have such a huge effect on day-to-day operations. Think about it. If I'm a small business making decisions about, say, buying things for the holidays, mm-hmm, I have to make a lot of those decisions now or in the next few months based on, current conditions. So companies are making purchasing decisions based on these tariffs, and one day they're on, the next day they're off, one day they're, it's very hard to plan.
Want to just take a quick look. Let's take a look back at the ticker from Wall Street. So if we bring our picture down there, when we came on the air, they were up about 200 points. Now we're down. I mean, almost flat. What does it mean? Maybe it's a quick reaction. Maybe we could go in the negative here. I'm just looking. This is the scotusblog.com. So these are the folks who really follow everything that comes out of the U.S. Supreme Court very closely. So they've actually quoted part of the opinion here from Roberts. I'm just going to read it. It says, based on two words separated by 16 others in IEEPA, Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, writes, regulate and importation. The president asserts the independent power to impose tariffs on imports from any country of any product at any rate for any amount of time. Those words cannot bear such weight. So that's sort of some of the justification, because Chief Roberts, as you mentioned, was the one who was in the majority here, obviously a conservative appointed by then President George W. Bush all those years ago, but
a conservative who has swung kind of, he's a bit unpredictable.
Yeah, unpredictable would be the way to put it there. So, if the tariffs are wiped out, sort of as you mentioned, could trigger up to $175 billion in refunds to importers. That's more of a drastic scenario, that there could be refunds issued. It doesn't really seem like practically that's something that actually could happen. The decision, though, could redefine presidential power over trade policy, just sort of in general.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
One thing that you mentioned is that even if the president has done it in a certain way, this Supreme Court ruling doesn't necessarily mean that he can't sort of restructure how you put forward
restructure and re-rationalize. And I can almost guarantee that he will have some kind of response to this imminently. I didn't see anything on Truth Social when I just looked a second ago, but he has said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit in the past, that if the Supreme Court were to strike this down, it would be devastating for the United States, for the economy. And so only one of his appointees or his nominees to the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, sided with him. His other two appointees, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, are in the majority, very much reducing what the president can do in imposing these sweeping tariffs.
Just a fascinating decision. So again, a major decision that you're seeing first here on Newsroom Live. The U.S. Supreme Court essentially striking down President Donald Trump's authority to impose sweeping tariffs, using a very specific item there, the emergency powers, and the what is the EEPA?
IEEPA.
Yeah, IEEPA, International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So it's big news.
A law passed by Congress in 1977, and we've seen courts. This is kind of in line with if we can draw a trend. We've seen courts recently, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on some other issues, curtail the president's powers.
Right.
And the Congress is a co-equal branch of government, and some lawmakers had said that the president overstepped in using this law to impose these tariffs.
All right. Well, we expect that President Donald Trump, wherever he's at this morning, I think he's hosting the governors from all around the country, including Governor Kathy Hochul, Mikey Sherrill. I believe that they're down in D.C. area today. So we expect that he will have a reaction at some point. Usually they do a little bit of a news conference where they talk about.
He will definitely respond to this, no doubt about it.